you worked on Return of the Jedi, and you said that it's sort of your mascot building skills led you to that. But is there a story of like someone who saw your work? I know you said Dan worked for them. Was it Dan who got you in? But how did you get your job working at Industrial Light and Magic in the creature shop?
Well, it was Dan, definitely Dan Howard, who has passed away. Wonderful caricature artist who did all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Dan worked for Lucasfilm. He was kind of odd man doing all kinds of odd jobs. And Jedi was happening, and they had a creature shop, which is separate from ILM. It was separate from Lewis, whatever. However, they had them set up. The creature shop was secretive, and it was in a separate building and like that. So they were hiring. They needed more people. Dan told them about my stuff. So I came in, I had the green monster. I still had that. I had my dance costumes. I had pictures of all the stuff I built. The reason they hired me was the difference between myself and the monster boys is I know how to get into them and move in them and build them inside, line them and put straps inside and buckles and make sure you can breathe in them and make sure the joints, when you build these things, you have a finger over here, an arm over here, a knee, a leg. And Tony McVeigh, who's the most amazing foam sculptor, he would take scissors, he would cut up these big pieces of Scott foam. There'd be a leg here and an arm there, but that's all. You'd have to glue them together, and you have to put either rubber latex over them or some kind of fabric. And then you'd have to still line them, too. So by the time you do that, you'd have something that's so stiff, it doesn't move. So it took someone with a lot of fabrication skill to be able to assemble some of these pieces and to skin them and still make them move. So that was kind of my skill level. So I said, well, I'm a dancer, got sewing skills, I'm an actress, I'm a puppeteer. So it was really great. So I think there were just three women in the whole shop: myself, Judy Elkins, and Patty Blau, who was one of the producers of the shop. So it was really fun. It was just three girls and all the monster boys, their latex and their foam and their glue. It's fun.
Well, yeah, and I watched an interview you did not too long ago, kind of more focused on the Star Wars stuff, and I was surprised to see that, or to hear that you weren't really all that familiar with Star Wars when you started working there. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I guess I was more in my own little world a little bit, and I was very busy with my own career, and I was substitute teaching at San Quentin, doing my extra work for the movies, and and the kids' entertainment and stuff. So I wasn't really following Star Wars at all. I know it was a big phenomenon, but I remember seeing the first Star Wars, and they were in the sand thing, the C-3PO, and I go, what is this? I couldn't figure it out. I had no idea what that movie was about the first time I saw it. So no, it didn't make an impression on me. I just thought, oh, good, I want to work in the movies. I want to get my hands into a puppet or inside a costume. I was thrilled to death to do that. I can't believe now that there's still, well, I can believe it. The interest in the franchise is, I don't know if it's grown or it's fame or whatever, but people, ask me for autographs and pictures, and it's just really amazing how the longevity of that. But I learned a lot, and I was very, very, very grateful and proud to be working on that film. And I got to go on to do other things with that movie. So it wasn't just a monster shop.
Yeah.
I got to go to England and work with C-3PO and work with Bill Tippett and stuff. So it was really, you evolve. I was younger, and it was a long time ago. Really amazing.
Well, and what I love is if you look up, they have some sort of behind the scenes pictures of movies, and you are in almost like if there's somebody in a costume, usually it's you, in these pictures. And were you like, when someone was building somewhere, like, oh, I just can't wait to get in that and see how it moves around?
Well, they would have on Fridays sometimes a little dog and pony show, and George would come through with John Berg and some of the big wigs and some of the producers, maybe a camera person or two, photographer. And I think this is where my show business acumen served me well to some extent, because, oh, here they come. Well, I happen to be working on this costume. Oh, I just happen to be trying it on just at the moment when they're showing up. So it was a little programmed to some extent. I don't think a lot of the stuff you saw was candid at all. I think it was well aware that these were publicity shots, and they were looking for enthusiasm and kind of hold look like you're working on it, but you kind of hold it so people can see it. It's all
Right.
about posing, and that's a little bit of my showbiz background. So now here it is years later, when you look at some of the publicity shots and this and that. I mean, Disney just did that wonderful Light and Magic or whatever it was, that 6-part series.
Yeah.
So I'm in the commercial for that series. And I'm also in episode 2 or 3 when they do Jedi. I'm actually featured it, not featured, but hey, there's me. There I am. It's pretty cool because I'm showing up in the costume. But yeah, definitely I'm the one in them, and I'm usually got glue up to my elbows and laying on the floor trying to get into them. So it's fun. That's the best. That was the funnest part, wearing them and playing with them. So much fun.
Did you have a favorite creature that you worked on while you were in the creature shop?
It was fun getting into the Gamorrean Guard, because that was a great big thing with the big feet and the big hands. I think you've seen a picture of that. But Bubo, the little dog, there's this little dog is cut off when you're in them, you're cut off at the waist. So the actor is halfway into the floor. They cut a hole in the floor. You're standing up to the floor, and this creature is just around your waist, but it looks like it's a little dog because you're half under the floor. And they kind of chain it down so that you can make movement. And so you take your head and you push it up and down inside the mouth, and it makes the mouth go up and down. And the fingers, of course, are moving, and it's wagging its tail because I put straps in there and buckled myself in to make this very inanimate rubber creature become lifelike. So I think I kind of enjoyed that because that was one of the ones that I did from A to Z. Some of the other creatures I worked on, Druthie McCool and things like that, I only had partial aspects of what I was doing with them. Either I was fur blending or I was blending, joining together skins, shram and latex skins. But you glue them onto this foam. Let's say you have a leg. So you're gluing this skin over this leg, but you have to kind of it's not fabric. It's like this wrinkly, firmish, glue-laden, sticky, gooey, wet lasagna. That's kind of what you're working with. And you have to get it onto the foam in a way that makes it look like there's wrinkles, and you kind of crinkle it up a little bit, but you still have to make sure that when you bend the knee, it still bends. You know what I'm saying? It's there's a lot of flexibility. I mean, with puppets, with armature inside puppets, yeah, the armature is all making things, the puppet, when he's in his metal state, when he's just a piece of metal and he's got all the joints and the fingers and everything. But when you start to put fur on those metal joints, they stop moving. All of a sudden the thing stiffens up. Or a puppet that you put clothes on. So it's an art to keep the flexibility of something, because every layer you put on these things tightens it up, makes it smaller inside as well. So again, it's a lesson. When you build these things, so difficult because you have to underbuild the head, like with the creatures, the bigger things. You have to underbuild the head because the structure under it, because you're going to put another layer of polyfoam, then you're going to put a layer of fake fur, and then you got to put eyeballs and noses and lash. You got to put all that on top of it. So the thing grows another inch or two. The proportions, you have to land those proportions perfectly. I built a puppet once that the head was too big for the body. It just got away from me, and I'm always, the body's too small. I was always sad about that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, George Lucas would come in every Friday, but more important than meeting George Lucas, this is where you also met Kirk Thatcher. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Kirk's the man. He's so much fun. He was very young, wild monster boy at the shop. Everybody loved him. He was, kind of not the class clown, because he's really smart and brilliant. Because everybody really respected, but kind of like that. He was the jester. Let's put it that way, the shop jester, and he was always making people laugh, and he'd always drawing all kinds of wild things and talking loud, and he's a very larger than life character. He's just a wonderful people. He really animated the shop. Everybody else was pretty serious, and including myself, I'm working on this movie. I got to behave myself. But not Kurt. He's just wild and bigger than life, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful kid at the time. And now he's just a full-grown man. I think I saw a picture of him. I think he's got a beard.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a full-grown man. That's so funny. Hard to imagine him all grown up like that. But at the time, he was just this kind of wild kid. So much fun having him in the shop.
He's still a jester. I will say that. I just had to ask you to see what he was like back in those days.
Yeah, he was a larger-than-life kid at the time. You know, I don't know how old he was at the time, but he was larger than life. A lot of hair and big hands and big presence.
Well, you went from working in the shop to, as you mentioned, going to on the shoot of Return of the Jedi. How did that come about?
Well, that was really great. We were all in the monster shop, and everybody in the monster shop, there was a handful of people were going to go with Phil to London, accompany these creatures, train and show the English crew, you know, what's what, and also keep them in good repair, because some of them had armature and moving parts. Some of the pieces I worked on were just, you know, rubber puppets, if you will, rubber creatures that needed movement, but some of them were much more complicated. So there was a team that was going to go to London. I was supposed to just leave, and that was it. And then a couple of people dropped out for whatever reason. There was some shifting in personnel, and I went to the producers and said, look, I'm not married. I don't have a dog. Well, I did have a dog, but I don't have a dog. I don't have a kid. I got a passport. If you need me, I'm available. And turns out I got to go to London. It was so much fun. We landed in London in the middle of winter, and we got to EMI Studios, and you walk in, there's this huge cadaverous room after room after room. You just, you know, you're kind of lost. It's all dark in there because none of the lights are on. You know, the keg lights and everything are all off. I got to see one of Yoda's sets, and I got to see the Akbar's set, and then we saw the set for, you know, where they unfreeze Han Solo, the Jabba the Palace set. You've probably seen some background pictures of that. That's just amazing. And there's like 100 people in the room, and everybody's scurrying around, and I'm just in the background. So that's how I got to do that. And then while we were working with the English crew in the American creatures, if you will, because the English people did some of the creatures. I think they did Jabba, actually. And we did the background characters in when Hans gets unfrozen. So we were just treating our crew really, really well, you know, making sure they had their water and this and that and towels and all that. And Anthony Daniels goes, where's my helper? Where's my assistant? He was so funny, C-3PO. He goes, where's my maid? You know, you needed a maid. Where's my butler? And so I said, oh, well, if you need me, you know, let me know. I'll be glad to help. And so it just turns out that when he came to America, the wardrobe department sucked me up, if you will, and said, oh, Anthony needs a dresser. So I got to be his assistant, his dresser, and hang out with him. And he's so much fun. Anthony Daniels got such a fun sense of humor. You know, we were just constantly pranking him and having fun with him. And he's really cute. Cute guy. So I got to work with Anthony Daniel up in the Crescent City, up in the forest, and I also got to go to Yuma, Arizona, where they did the dunes. You know, where they had the sand barge coming down. The stuntmen were falling into the monster's mouth. And so it was really, really exciting for me. I got to do that part. Otherwise, I would have just been home doing nothing.
In an interview, you mentioned that you got to meet Frank Oz. Did you get to see him perform Yoda at any point?
No, I did not get to. No, we met all those people, but did not get to see him perform. Yeah, we weren't filming with any scenes with Yoda at that point. I saw the setup for him, you know, where Luke, go be you, the training set. But we were, like I said, we were doing the Starship, not Starship. Where Admiral Akbar was, you know, in control with those guys, and again the barge scene, all the barge stuff. We did all the barge and anything where there was a bunch of creatures. But no, I never got to see Yoda. That would have been so exciting.
Yeah, I know in an interview you said you didn't get to perform any of the creatures for the film, but was there one costume that you were like, man, I sure wish I could be this character in this film?
Partly because of the English Union. Everything was very union over there. They're very strict on who does what. So you weren't in the union. I wasn't in the actors union. I'm SAG here, but not in England. But, you know, we were just so busy doing what we were doing. It never felt like I was missing out on anything. Mm-hmm. The background characters, by the time those things that we worked on were doing their thing. I mean, they were way in the background. They weren't doing much of anything. They're kind of standing there doing their little thing, and there were little moments of them, but it's not, you're pretty busy when you're in places like that. So, I didn't feel like that. No, I didn't feel like there was something I wish I could have gotten into and stood around all day in a hot rubber suit. I was having kind of fun being with the crew. And I realized, as an actor, you might get one day's work, but as a crew member, I got like 8 weeks or something. And so being behind the camera is not the worst place to be, in terms of longevity on the set.
Yeah, absolutely.